Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check it out. Always appreciate that. And guys, today we're going to be talking about what I consider the number one thing that's going to keep most anglers from getting good at bass fishing. There's one element, characteristic of people, sort of not just on a fishing level, but just like a personal level that just stands in the way of getting too good at bass fishing. Now, this can sometimes you can make a change and sort of overcome this. Some people can't, but we're going to get into that in today's video. And I think that by the end of it, it might help you guys out, learn something by it, and sort of avoid that pitfall yourself. Also, guys, a quick reminder, Tackle Warehouse, the end of spring sale is finishing up on Tuesday on the 29th. So if you guys are interested in getting 20% off on a bunch of gear that they have, fishing tackle, apparel, rods and reels, I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. You can take advantage of that spring sale before Tuesday if you want to. And using that link to order anything is a good way to support intuitive angling. So I really appreciate that. Okay, guys, what is it? I'll see right off the bat if you guys can guess what the number one thing is that really keeps most people from getting to be really good at fishing, and it sort of keeps most people average or below average, and that is patience. This is something you don't hear people talk about much, and it is so critical in bass fishing. I can't even begin to tell you. We're going to talk about it in the video. And the thing about that is when you're talking about patience, this is why it's such a difficult topic with bass anglers, because sometimes people just inherently in their personality, they're just not very patient people. They just don't have that. They're not wired to be patient. You know, sometimes that can be some type of chemical imbalance. It could be a personality issue. It could be a choice, whatever reason. I see a lot of people out there that lose patience pretty quick. And I can tell you guys right now, if you do not develop and cultivate and work on becoming patient as an angler, you're never going to get any good. You're gonna just struggle at that, average to below average, bass angling success your whole life. So talk a little bit about what you can do with that, because it's a little bit deeper than what you think. First of all, you have to train yourself to be patient, and it's not something that it's not something that's just beyond anyone's reach out there, unless you have some type of chemical imbalance issue or some type of mental issue that completely keeps you from being patient. There are some situations like that, but for the most part, it's just a matter of people have not been trained to be patient as anglers. Now, when I'm talking about patience, I don't mean that you have to be able to sit on the bank and not move and just throw a worm out there or a crankbait over and over and over again and never get bored with it and just be patient until one hits. That's not what I'm talking about. When you're talking about patience, you have to balance the way that you're fishing, the technique that you're fishing, with the level of patience required from that. Now, for example, it's all about commitment. When you're talking about patience, it's commitment to getting something to work. Now, if you're convinced that you can catch fish flipping and pitching on a certain day out there, you have got to cultivate the patience to stay with that technique. You can't go out there and do it for 20 minutes and just say they're not biting and give it up on it. Patience will require you to stay with that technique and make adjustments within that technique until you start catching fish. So in other words, if you get out there and start flipping a jig and you start losing patience after about 20 minutes, instead of just giving up on it, make a change. Change up the size of your jig you're throwing, change up the color, change up the different type of trailer you use on it, change up the type of cover you're fishing, the way that you work the jig. There's always something that you can do if once you've made that commitment to stay with it and keep it going. Now, another thing with patience, it's like one of the things that I found out about it, it's like younger anglers have usually a harder time with patience because they haven't fished enough to really understand how patient you have to be to catch fish. Younger anglers, and also anglers that are sort of in certain occupations. So, for example, I've had a chance to fish with quite a few people that are in the military over my career, and one of the things I found out about it, and this isn't across the board, is a lot of the service members that I fished with, they have a difficult time with patience and with bass fishing in general, because in the military, a lot of times there's a need to control situations and you have to control things. And when you're bass fishing, you can't control anything. It's like there are certain aspects of bass fishing that are beyond your control. And until you accept that, with patience, you're never going to be any good with that. So anyway, what are some things that you can do to gain patience? The main thing that I think with it just takes an awareness that you're doing that. It's like when you get out there and you're not catching them and you get frustrated, that's when most people lose patience. Instead of losing that patience, like I said, you have to make some type of an adaptation. And I use the jig analogy, but there's a lot of other things you can do. If you get bored or if you get impatient with doing something, you have to look at the entire situation, and you have to decide, okay, is this lack of patience that I'm experiencing right now, is it the result of how I'm fishing, what I'm fishing with, or the area that I'm fishing with? Sometimes a simple adjustment, you can make a simple adjustment like an area or technique, and you can start achieving some success, but you don't ever want to get sucked into that because you're losing patience. You don't want to try something simply because something else is not working. You have to make an analysis of the situation and say, okay, I need to make some type of an adjustment here and change. I'm getting a little antsy. I'm getting a little impatient. What do I need to do based upon the factors that I see? It's like, take note of like the sky conditions, the wind, the water clarity, the water temperature, everything along with it. Take note of that and try to determine what type of change that you can make that will be productive beyond just the fact that you've lost patience for it. So it sounds simple, but it's a lot harder than what you would think about. And one of the things that I found out, here's what keeps people from catching bass when they lose patience. Once you lose patience in what you're doing, you automatically speed up. And when you speed up and you increase the pace that you're fishing, that is almost a certain recipe for not catching any fish. You cannot ever fish fast and speed up and fish faster than the pace dictates with the technique that you're fishing and expect to catch any fish. I've been through it, guys. I know what I'm talking about here, and most pros do. If you ever find yourself getting out there, say for example, you caught a few on a crankbait early in the morning off a rocky bank, and then you go through a dry spell of maybe an hour or an hour and a half without catching a fish, you start getting frustrated and you start getting less patient and you start speeding up. You're fishing the bait faster, you're faster on the trolling motor, you're losing patience with the technique and along with confidence, and as a result, the odds of you catching fish go way down. So one of the things that I will highly suggest that will help you out with patience is you have to figure out the exact pace that you need to be fishing at based upon your technique. It's not all about, when I'm talking about patience, I'm not talking about just fishing slow all the time. I'm talking about fishing efficiently and thoroughly based upon the technique that you're fishing. Now, let's say you're throwing a spinnerbait or a crankbait or something like that down a long stretch of riprap. You can pick up the pace a little bit. You don't have to go down through there like a snail. You can actually turn that trolling motor up, work a little bit faster, and cover some ground. But if you're like pitching and flipping, dock corners or dock pilings or flooded bushes where you have to be real precise and your bait has to land in a real small area, then you have to adjust your pace to where you can efficiently and effectively fish that cover with that, the technique that you're fishing. So the patience is intertwined with the technique that you're using. But the main thing that I will give you guys, the tip I'll give you on patience is it's always better to go slow than it is to fast. And it's even better to get comfortable with the pace that you're at. If you feel that the pace that you're fishing is the right pace, that goes a long way in developing patience for the technique. And obviously, if you're catching fish, it's easier to be patient than if you're just not catching anything else. So, like I said, don't give up on things too quick. Don't give up on your area, your technique. Give it a chance to unfold and be productive a little bit before you making a change. And don't ever make a change based upon the fact that you're just impatient without any external, variables that determine that decision to make there. So anyway, hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.